What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, another standard Abzan list. This one we're back taking a look at Idol of Endurance. And Abzan is one of my favorite color combinations since Ikoria has come out. Obviously, I played this during the early access, if any of you saw that. But now that I've had some time to really kind of brew around it and kind of think it through and figure out kind of the best way to play it, or funnest way to play it, really, this is kind of what I've come up with. So Idol of Endurance, just to review, is kind of similar to Lurrus. I'm sure most of you guys know that by now. Just to review though, Idol of Endurance, 2 and a white for an artifact. Not legendary, so you can have multiples of these out. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creature cards with mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard until Idol of Endurance leaves the battlefield. And you can pay 1 and a white, tap it. Until end of turn, you can cast a creature from among the cards exiled with Idol of Endurance without paying its mana cost. So, similar to Lurrus, however, you got to go up to 3 mana, whereas Lurrus, which we're running a couple copies here as well, you can get creatures back with 2 or less from your graveyard. So, we're running lots of 1, 2, and 3 mana creatures. You do want some self-mill, obviously, but sometimes it can take some time to get that set up. So, having 4 Idol of Endurance, just I don't really see the point in running 4 of. Like, how often are you actually going to be casting this on turn 3? Probably not very often, because you're going to have, what, best case scenario, like maybe a couple creatures, 2, 3 creatures there, which is okay. But you want to guarantee that by the time you cast Idol of Endurance, you have a minimum of 2 to 3 creatures in your graveyard. So there's some self-mill, but we're also playing like good value creatures that we want, that we can expect our opponent to kill, or that we can just chump block with in combat and let them die, and we get them back later on. So there is some self-mill aspect, but we're also kind of anticipating our opponent is going to have removal, which is pretty reasonable. So 3 Idol of Endurance and the 2 Lurrus, and we'll just start at the top here. Running the 4 of Archfiend's Vessel, 1/1 lifelink for 1 mana. However, if it enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you can exile it and make a 5/5 demon token with flying instead. So that is pretty fantastic. Knight of the Ebon Legion, also has a 4 of. It's just a powerful creature on its own. This is a this is a great creature because it's offensive or defensive. You can activate it to give it Death Touch and kill anything on your opponent's side. And it's definitely a target for removal, so that kind of fits in with our theme here. So even if they kill it, that's fine. Just get it back with Idol of Endurance, get it back with the Lurrus, or some of our other creatures or spells we're about to get to. A couple copies here of Eliminate. Did want to run, more copies ideally, but with Idol of Endurance, you do have to be more creature-based, and we still have to make room for some other spells as well to kind of make this all work. So unfortunately, I had to kind of cut it down to 2 copies of Eliminate, which still seems pretty reasonable. Be able to destroy a creature or planeswalker with mana cost 3 or less. Eliminate, just a fantastic card. A couple copies here of Freebooter. Get a look at our opponent's hand and take any non-creature, non-land card from it and exile under the Freebooter. So Freebooter is a nice little value play. Works with the Idol, works with Lurrus. Mire Triton is our first self-mill option here. 2/1 Death Touch, of course. Mill 2 cards and gain 2 life. So it just works well in a variety of matchups. Excuse me. A couple copies here of Scavenging Ooze in the main deck. 2 mana 2/2. We can exile cards from a graveyard. And if it's a creature, we get to put a +1 counter on the ooze and gain a life. So we don't want to do our own graveyard, but we can in certain situations. Maybe we can put an extra couple counters on the ooze and get through for lethal that way. So that sometimes can be an option in certain situations. We are a little bit of we're kind of like an aggro deck, but we're really more of a kind of a typical Golgari grindy matchup. You're familiar with those, going back to especially like the Ravnica block that we just had a couple years ago. Those tend to be pretty grindy matchups, including cards like Glowspore Shaman, which is black and green for 3/1, so it's pretty solid aggressive body there. We mill 3 cards, and we can put a land from our graveyard back on top of our library, especially in a 3-color deck. That's just such a fantastic option. We're basically base black, and we're splashing white and green. But so we have tons of 2-drops, so even if we don't have the black and the green to play this for some reason on turn 2, we still have plenty of other 2-drop options as well, or additional 1-drops we can play. But if we do cast this on 2, we can fix our mana by getting that 3rd or 4th land that we need, by getting the color of land that we need. So Glowspore Shaman, just a really, really fantastic card in this type of shell. And of course, Call of the Deathdweller works amazing here with the Lurrus and Archfiend Vessel in particular, being able to return a creature with mana cost 3 or less from her graveyard to the battlefield. And then one gets a Death Touch counter, the other gets a Menace counter. Of course, the way the Archfiend Vessel works is a little bit awkward because it's going to come back to the battlefield as a 1/1, and it's going to get that Death Touch and or Menace counter on it. And then you have to exile it and then get the 5/5. So you don't get to put the Death Touch or Menace counter on the 5/5 demon token, which is kind of unfortunate, but you still get, 5/5 flying creature out of it, which you're not really going to complain about too much. And the reason why Abzan was one of my favorite colors since Ikoria is Mythos of Nethroi. Instant speed, being able to destroy any non-land permanent for Abzan colors is just a fantastic removal spell. And just 2 copies of Lurrus. We have the Idle Endurance, we have the Call of the Deathdweller. It is legendary, and we do need to make room for some other things as well, so 2 copies feels right to me. And 2 copies here of Knight of Autumn. It's another 3 mana creature that we can get back with our Idol of Endurance, getting additional value. The fact that this is an Enter the Battlefield effect, the fact that this is 3 mana, definitely makes this worth running over a Gemrazor or even a Thrashing Brontodon. Like I said, our list is base black. If you look at our spells, pretty much everything has black in them, except for a couple cards. So having this being very splashable at just 1 green and white means that we're going to be able to cast this pretty much whenever when we need to. Once we get to 3 mana, we should have the right mana, generally speaking, to cast this. We're about having double green for a Thrashing Brontodon, which would, in theory, work with our deck as well, because you can sack it and then get it back with Idol or something like that. But yeah, just being able to just put 2 counters on it to make it a 4/3, destroy an artifact or enchantment, which is the most likely value you're going to get out of it, or gain a life, which can be relevant in certain situations as well. So just having that flexibility in Knight of Autumn is fantastic. And at our top end, we do have some Planeswalkers. In the early access, I was just running the Liliana, Waker of the Dead. Just because it was a new card, I want to kind of try it out. The discard, obviously, on paper has some synergy with what we're trying to do, but at the end of the day, it just didn't really seem like it was a great fit. So definitely be looking at Liliana later on at some point, and maybe some kind of a reanimation strategy, or something else along those lines. But for now, decided on Sorin as a 1-of and a Vraska as a 2-of. I was looking at maybe a couple copies of Sorin at first, but then just 1 seems like it's really all you really need. It's another way for you to get creatures back with its -X, since most of our creatures are 1, 2, or 3 mana anyways. You can do this turn it comes down, or just be able to +2 to deal damage to a creature or planeswalker. And the lifelink for all of your creatures as well is pretty fantastic. And then Vraska here, it's kind of a sacrifice engine, so if we do want to sacrifice one of our creatures to draw a card, and then fill up our graveyard for the Idol of Endurance, for the Lurrus, for the Sorin, Vraska kind of gives us that flexibility as well. We'll also be able to -3 and destroy any non-land permanent on our opponent's side with mana cost 3 or less. So Vraska pretty much fits into any deck that's running Golgari colors. He just kind of does a little bit of everything. And yeah, just a terrific card here as a couple copies. Since we're mostly low to the ground, mostly creature-based, 2 feels like the perfect amount. So going to the mana base here, we are still running 24 lands because we do have these 4 drops and 3 drops, and we do want to curve out, and especially in 3 colors. I feel like you can't go too light on the mana because you do need those extra lands just to make sure you hit all the colors that you need as well. So 2 plains, the 1 Castle Locthwain, and then the 4 swamps. So we have 5 basically black sources here since we are mostly black. The 2 forests, so pretty evenly split with the 2 forests, 2 plains, since those are our splash colors. All the shock lands. We do need the green on 2 for like the Glowspore Shaman, or the Knight of Autumn on 3 can be pretty important as well. So I still wanted like something like another split between the black and green, so we're running just the 1 Temple of Malady, and then just the 2 Triomes. Just having the fixing is really important, even though we don't always want to play this on 1 because we have lots of 1-drops as is, but you still want the fixing. And then of course, if you are flooding out a little bit, you can just cycle this away. But we do have Vraska that can also help with the sacking lands to draw additional cards as well if you are flooding out. So that is where we are with the main list. Sideboard here, pretty split with lots of 2-ofs here. Just 2 Agonizing Remorse because we want to make room for 2 more Freebooters, just kind of fit with our creature theme. So a lot of times we can just kind of tempo our opponent with the Freebooters and just kind of take away their spells. So they have to find a way to deal with their Freebooter first before they get their Shadow of the Sky back or something like that. And Agonizing Remorse, you still need some way to kind of hit their hand and just exile something, so you don't have to worry about them getting it back ever. So just a couple copies of Agonizing Remorse. You couldn't make a case to just run 4 of and just drop their Freebooter altogether, but I think I like the split here, just having additional creatures that synergize with our deck as well. A couple heroic interventions, of course. If you're in green, you have to be running this at least in your main or your sideboard. So against those removal heavy matchups, we're going to bring a couple in out of the sideboard. 2 more Scavenging Ooze out of the sideboard for if our opponent is running some kind of graveyard stuff. You know, get rid of Urros, Cruxes, things like that. Or if they're on some kind of reanimation shenanigans, definitely want to be running something like this. 2 Banishing Lights can come in for some exile removal. 2 Davriels for those control and mid-range matchups, forcing our opponent to discard cards that they might not want to discard. Some additional enchantment in Artifact Hate and Night of Autumn. And if we need to go a little more aggressive, more powerful, we thought like maybe like a Vraska and bring in Questing Beast to kind of help us close out games. Alright, that's the deck. We'll jump into some best of 3 and see how we do. Hey, NSD 334. Okay, hand seems pretty reasonable. Looks like we'll be going shock, but it is what it is. So definitely want to get this knight down on 1. Shock in Temple Garden, probably go the Glowspore Shaman on 2. Well, it's definitely a case for going Triton first, just filling up our graveyard for additional lands potentially. Let's actually do that. It's probably a little bit safer. So if we do want to get a land, no reason to attack. We do have a basic plains now, which is unfortunate. We can play that just to activate knights. We don't want to see a Mythos of Nethroi in our graveyard without us having cast it and killed something first. Acrobat. Okay, so let's click just Rakdos starter list. If they attack, we'll block with the Triton and trade, definitely. When we'll swing in with the Knight of Ebon Legion and hold up activation, so I think we'll just go ahead and drop this plains. Yeah, we'll swing both. We got Death Touch on the Triton. And if they die, we've got the Idol, we've got the Death Dweller. So I think we're good either way. We want to activate here. I think I'd rather just get more creatures down. Don't think we need a land. I mean, it would be nice to have another black source potentially, though. And we have the Triome coming down next turn. We'll actually decline. We're up to 4 lands, we don't really need more than that. So next turn we have options. We don't have any creatures in our yard for either of these to be relevant. Again, that's why I like to run just a 3 of, and the Death Door just has a 2 of. We've already milled 1, so that's a little awkward. But yeah, if they want to get aggressive, we're happy to make some trades because we have ways of getting them back. Which probably our Rakdos opponent cannot say the same. Carnival. That's where the 1 toughness can be unfortunate. Now they can swing 4 or 5 if they want to activate the Acrobat. But, you know, if they want to kill our stuff, we've got ways of getting it back, so we're not too worried about it. Shields are down, so I'm not really sure. But this is a Rakdos starter list, so I'm guessing they're just a newer player and trying to figure out how to play this deck. Well, even though it is a starter deck, they still have some pretty nice tools, and obviously Carnival Carnage lines up well with all of our 1 toughness creatures. So now we have 2 creatures we can get back. And this is taking a long time for them to figure this out, but we're all new to Arena and Magic at some point. You can pay black to give it Death Touch, but that doesn't really do much. You can pay red to give it, make it a 3/2. Yeah, they were reading it, trying to figure out how that works. Okay. New player it is. We still have to deal with what they're trying to do. They're going to have removal, so we just need to kind of keep adding to the board here. We can activate the Knight anytime later on. 2 lands in hand, we definitely don't need to get lands back, so we'll decline. We got a couple more creatures back. We filled up our graveyard a couple more creatures that we can get back, is what I'm trying to say. So that's pretty cool. And drop our Triome. So in the case to just hold that up for cycling, but since we have spells in hand that we want to cast already, I think we just need to get more mana down. If we're in top deck mode and we draw this, then yeah, then you'd want to consider cycling that. But we have activation here, we have these 3 mana plays here, so I think just getting mana out is our best play. Okay, Theater of Horrors, so Knight of Autumn wouldn't be terrible. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures now, so that's pretty reasonable. Could call the Death Door, just get a couple of them back. But we can shock in, play Idle, and then activate it immediately and get something. They just have a couple spells in their yard, so Ooze is okay. Otherwise, maybe just a Triton just to gain some life back against them. Might be our best bet. And they're probably not going to have too many good ways to deal with this. Although they're probably running at least 1 or 2 copies of Bedevil. I'm happy to trade. Okay, don't have to shock in. So we'll play the basic swing. If they want to block, we'll activate. Prefer they not, but depending on how much of a reader they are, they might just go for the block, only seeing the 1/2. Activate. And just go for the Triton. Eliminate and Freebooter. Those have been nice cards to have, but it is what it is. That's kind of the downside of the self-mill strategy, is sometimes you take out cards that you don't want to necessarily mill. And another reason not to run too heavy on removable spells, because you're likely chance you're just going to mill a lot of them anyways. But we do have the Death Touch on the Knight and the Mire Triton, so you have other ways of kind of dealing with your opponent's creatures. Even if it's in a kind of a defensive way. Just kind of trying to grind them out, get some graveyard advantage. Okay, doing 1 damage to us. It only targets opponents or planeswalkers. Okay. So you got a Bedevil, which they can't cast. I'm not sure they're aware of that. Yeah, you still have to pay mana to cast it. You don't get to cast it for free. They get Light Up the Stage. So they get some pretty cool stuff going on there. Yeah, we'll just attack. I think we'll go for the activation on the Knight. Block or no block. And then you start pushing damage across here. And we'll chip him down to 15. So Freebooter not really doing too much in this spot as far as I could call the Death Dweller. So these 2 cards are in exile with Light Up the Stage. I think we'll go for the activation. And they have some creatures down, so maybe we'll go for the Ooze. And we'll go ahead and pay. Why not? I gotta get the point, I believe. Yep. 5 mana, destroy a creature. So we can block their Guild Mage with our Ooze. Turn it into a 3/3, gain some life. Sure. I just want to target the target a life total, trigger Spectacle, and now get the point would be the most efficient removal spell here, since you can only cast one thing. Or no. Do they have... sure. They might have actually had enough black mana. Yeah, I think they have 3 black mana, so they could have Bedeviled and Hackerbat with Spectacle. So I guess that would have been a pretty reasonable play as well. But yeah, let's hit their graveyard. Grow our Ooze. Another land. So Vraska would be nice to deal with all these lands. How do we want to deal with this? Swing 3 or 5. Let's bump again. I don't want to target my own graveyard, so we'll go ahead and take out that just to push more damage across. I'll go for the activation. What do we want here? The Glowspore maybe, or the Knight? I should go for the Knight because that'll get a counter on it. Play the land, play the Triton. Gain some life back, fill up our yard some more. And there's a Lurrus. That's pretty sweet. So yeah, we're in a pretty good spot now. And get a Spear Spewer. That's not going to do too much at this point. They can make us a discard, but then they're just kind of dead on board. They can hit us for 1 and maybe get a Bedevil back, but again, I think they're just dead on board. They're going for it. So you gotta kill something, get a 0/2 blocker. I guess you probably killed the Knight. Nope, they're going for the Ooze. Sure. So then you block the Knight with the Spear Spewer and take 4. I guess they're go down to 3, so they're still alive. Ooh, Footlight Fiend. Okay, so you have some stuff. So our opponent has stuff. Glowspore. Well, let's swing all. I mean, blocking the Triton is pretty easy, but I still think we want to just force it. It's a pretty easy block there, dude. You have to block the Knight with your 0/2, otherwise I just activate. Okay. You want to lose the game. I got it. So the correct play was block the Triton with the Footlight Fiend. They take 2 from the unblocked one, and then once it finishes dealing damage, then the Footlight Fiend can kill off the Mire Triton. So it's done 2 damage, but then you kill it off, and then you prevent the damage from the Knight. But either way, they're pretty much in a bad spot. So I think Lurrus being a legendary, I think we can shave off 1 just to make room for the Knight of Autumn. Quest and Beast lines up with what they're trying to do pretty well. Freebooter is pretty medium because they have lots of exile effects with the Theater of Horrors, light up the stage. Of course, if you get to it on 2, you can kind of pick something off. But I think we'll just go for the... Let's go ahead and bring in the Remorse to kind of help us deal with some of their removal. And so I think Vraska is probably worth it, even though it's tempting to bring in a Questing Beast. Or maybe we just lose the Remorse. Just forget about that whole strategy. I mean, if you don't draw it on time, then they just kind of get to... having hand disrupt doesn't really do too much. They empty their hand pretty well. Maybe the intervention might be worth it here. That doesn't seem too crazy. I mean, they have lots of removal, but it wasn't like an overabundance. I think we can kind of play around it. I mean, we kind of want stuff to be in our graveyard to an extent, so we'll do this. Now, if they had like Ritual of Sits as well, then we'd probably want to deal with that. I think we shock. We have everything's playable but the idol. which is fine because we don't necessarily need to play that like on curve immediately anyway. So I think we shock just to get our 1-drops online. And then we can Temple, Archfiend's Vessel, and maybe Scry for something. We're finding lands as it is. Now we can go for Ooze, but without much going on, I think we just go second Vessel and Scry. And we've got all the lands. We already have an Idol, so I think we're fine with bottoming that. We don't have Bedevil, so they could kill our Idol, but I think they're going to be more interested in attacking our creatures with their removal. Next turn we have Ooze or Eliminate open. But as far as I know, these Rakdos starter lists don't typically run like Ritual of Sits or Cry of the Carnariums, which would be pretty devastating if they did. Just a Mayhem Devil, so we'll happily eliminate that. Swing 2, gain some life, drop the Temple Garden, and next turn we have we have all the mana for Ooze plus Shaman next turn. And we don't need to get anything back with the Shaman. Maybe we like Castle Locthwain. You can make a case to put that on top of your library in case we might need that sort of a late game card draw engine, especially if we're getting the life gain with these two. We don't necessarily mind paying the life for it a little bit later on. They still have tons of cards in this hand because they didn't do anything until turn 3. We're just kind of curious what kind of a hand they kept. They weren't really doing much. Or roustabout, sure. Could just drop the Triome, but I still like getting both of our 2-drops online. Could also make a case to just Ooze plus activate, getting rid of the Mayhem Devil, but we can always do that later. So we don't care if these vessels die, so we'll go for that. Again, we don't need land. If it's a Castle Locthwain, maybe we'll put that. But just a basic swamp, we don't really need. And now here's a situation where maybe we just cycle the Triome. We just have the Knight of Autumn with the Idol. We could block. They attack, will block, so we lose the Ooze. So now that we have the Idol, Endurance is looking more likely to play. If they attack in, we'll definitely block with the Shaman, and we'll just probably go for the Idol of Endurance, since now we have 3 creatures to get back. That's kind of like it's pretty reasonable. It's a pretty reasonable number of creatures to get back, and we have an untapped land, so we can do all the things. So let's swing 2, get some life, play the Idol. What do we want here? Oh, we're missing a white source. Yep, missing a white source. Well, we do have the Ooze or Knight of Autumn. So if they do the Theater of Horrors, we'll probably want to just be safe and get rid of that. We're at 24 life, so life gain isn't too relevant. We could just make a nice, powerful 4/3. So opponent with the Carnival to get rid of one of our creatures. Not worried about the last card in hand. And they're going to pay 3 mana to light up the stage. They got a land and a Footlight Fiend. So that's pretty decent. With our Vessel, they can easily block, ping us for 1. Which you can make a case not to block this, because if you're running this, you probably have ways of getting it back as a 5/5. You have another 1-drop you're considering playing here. You haven't Spectacled, so you can't Skewer, you can't light up stage number 2. Yeah, you definitely want to play that land from Exile and Footlight Fiend. That was pretty... I'm not sure what they were considering there. We'll attack first. Take the block, of course. Being us for 1. We don't have any creatures out for them to consider targeting. We'll activate. I think I like Ooze here. and Knight. And do we hold the land for cycling? We're up to 5, so maybe we do. We'll pass the turn. So we have 2 green mana open to activate the Ooze. If we just draw another land, then definitely cycling is going to be our best play. So at 5 lands, I think we'd rather just draw into something else. That's why I like having just a couple of these is nice, because we can usually cycle this away and still have mana open to actually cast things because our deck is so low to the ground. But deck, sure. Can't do anything about that. You got it. We could have just like a Bedevil here. They were looking at it pretty hard. They have 30 mana open. It is a Bedevil. Okay. Ooh, Sorin. So playing that land last turn would have been pretty sweet. But I think we'll just Sorin here. Minus. Get the Ooze back. I like having Ooze, I think. And I think we'll play it out at this point since we were kind of punished last time for not doing so. So we have plenty of activations on the Ooze to grow it if they don't have removal. We're at 23, so we're not too worried about prioritizing the Night of Autumn. They're looking at our idol, so they're either considering what to Bedevil here, or they have. Well, that's unfortunate. We'll go ahead and exile. Sure, main devil. Eliminate. That's pretty good. I'll swing 3. They don't seem to have anything, so we'll go ahead and get some pumps. Looks like they have 2 more creatures. So yeah, I think we're perfect here. Just exiling twice. Hit for 5, activate, idle, hold up, eliminate. They are running a good number of creatures that eliminate does not hit, but that's fine. We'll get the Glowspore down because it's 3 power, so we're technically showing lethal here. And decline. We have all the lands we need. If you do get in these late game situations, the Triomes actually work well with the Glowspore because you can put it back on top and potentially cycle it away. Why do I keep thinking that? Because then you just draw anyways. So you probably rather just want the draw there than the Triome. So yeah, I think Castle Locthwain is probably pretty much your best bet in the late game. But we're just running 1 of because we are a 3-color list. Idol number 2. I mean, we filled up our graveyard pretty good at this point. And our opponent don't have the removal. So yeah, we're grinding them out. Pretty sweet. So yeah, lots of removal there. We had to kind of fight our way through, and that's kind of why I don't think you really need to overdo the self-mill strategy, because a lot of times your opponent is just going to have ooh, that's cool. Is going to have ways of dealing with your creatures anyway. Either they're running creatures of their own that might be better than your creatures, so to speak, and you can just chump block and let them die, especially with like Death Touch on the Mire Triton and things like that. The Ooze, of course, can get really big. And Glowspore Shaman, just being a 2-mana 3-power creature, is pretty sweet. So it'd be nice to run more removal, but we have the Death Touch. With the Triton, we have the Knight of Ebon Legion. We have plenty of ways to just kind of chump block and fill up our graveyard that way, and then get those creatures back. And then the Vessel comes back as a 5/5, basically, which is pretty sweet. And then Sorin was pretty nice there. The opponent had removal for it in that last game, which kind of sucked. But Sorin definitely has a 1 that feels right, feels pretty good right there as a 1. Vraska did not make an appearance, but there were definitely a lot of situations there where she would have worked out really well. You know, we started drawing lots of lands, so being able to sacrifice those to draw additional cards and gain life back. So I feel like this deck has a lot of utility to it. It's pretty grindy in typical kind of a Golgari graveyard type fashion, but you have lots of fun toys, lots of value. The Recursion definitely taxes removal heavy decks by just getting your creatures back over and over again. There is, some exile removal which you have to watch out for. Graveyard hate, of course, kind of sucks, which is probably why this would not be anything too competitive. Tormod's Crypt can just sacrifice without even having to pay mana in response, like a Knight of Autumn, so that kind of sucks. So there are good graveyard answers, and you kind of do want to be running graveyard answers typically. So, but as far as casual decks go, it's a ton of fun. I feel like this is a pretty good shell for Idol of Endurance, and I feel like that was pretty good gameplay, kind of demonstrating it. And kind of like how the sideboard has lots of versatility as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.